Welcome to the 980s podcast hosted by yours truly, Kevin Thompson, founder and CEO of 980 Capital Group. Thank you guys for joining us. As always, say subscribe to the channel. As always, say go and get my book, Get My Beat at CFP, live on Apple and Amazon. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email us at info@9icapitalgroup.com. Send us your questions. You go to the website at www.9icapitalgroup.com. Schedule an appointment. As you know, we're here to do what? Educate, empower, and engage. And today we're talking about Reg BI and why the insurance industry is lobbying against your best interest. This is part 2 of our look into this industry, and I'm bringing on some special guests. Today we have David Kinder, and an insurance specialist, and he has some kind words to use in regards to this because him and I have gone back and forth on LinkedIn, and I think it's interesting to have a differing opinion. Let's get it. We have David Kinder on the call today, podcaster, business owner, and his tagline is the tax-exempt wealth guy. David, thank you for joining the 980s podcast today, my friend.
I'm so glad to be here. Glad my mic just decided to work now. I temporarily unplugged it. You never know what happens with technology. Yeah, same mic and everything. We're going to be good. But I'm glad to be here. We've got a very interesting and industry decisive topic.
Yeah. It's one of those topics that divides a lot of individuals. We have the one topic that's like fee versus commission, and then we have the other side talk. I mean, it's just mind-boggling how we can't get along in this industry. And by the way, this is not us having a debate. This is a conversation. So just FYI on that.
I appreciate that. I've done several private briefings on this topic and such. I like to think I'm rather well versed.
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't always agree with the insurance industry perspective, but I get it. At least I think I do. So
let's start there. Let's start. So what we're talking about today, guys, is regulation best interest and the insurance community, right? The insurance lobby, which recently basically just did another thing where they just balked at the regulation-based interest. And for all of you who don't understand what regulation-based interest is, the key components of Reg BI, and I'll just start here. This is just my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's a disclosure obligation. There's a care obligation, a conflict of interest obligation, and a compliance obligation. Now, those are 4 obligations there. I understand, and we're gonna get into the context of why the insurance lobby may be opposing this. But am I correct right now about what the key components of Reg BI actually are?
Yes, and yet there's a number of components within that.
Okay.
And that's the interesting part. And so let's start off with the insurance company perspective.
Okay.
The company does not want to be a fiduciary institution.
Okay.
The company wants to remain a product manufacturer.
Gotcha.
And frankly, that's what I want them to do. Make the best product, make the best things. And of course, each insurance company has their own menu of products and services and whatever else that they do. And their job is to cater to the insurance agents, to get the agents to like them well enough that they actually want to sell their stuff. That's why I say the insurance agent is the market. Mm-hmm. The ultimate beneficiary of this work is the consumer, but the agent has to be sold first on the company. The company has to have an attractive line of products with decent compensation. It doesn't have to be the highest, but it needs to be in line with what everybody else is doing. Mm-hmm. And let the company just do its thing. But the higher the overhead gets for that company, what's going to happen? Something has to give.
Yeah.
And it's going to give in the product design.
Yeah.
Because you can't lower the compensation that much because then the agents won't sell it. So it ends up being that the consumer could end up losing. So instead of getting the higher returns that are possible, they're going to price things a little differently. Or instead of having a certain kind of income rider on a policy, they're going to lower it just a little bit. Whatever it is, there's going to be a give and take. And I want the companies to give us the maximum benefits for the consumer while rewarding the agent and the company being having a profitable business too. All three have to fit. If they don't all fit, Something's going to give. And when something gives, the company usually loses.
So I'm glad you said that because a couple of things stuck out to me. So just for clarity for everyone, David and I have had some spirited conversations on LinkedIn. Now, spirited as in like, hey, back and forth. I'm right, you're right, I'm wrong, those types of conversations. But this conversation today is based on us just trying to gain an understanding on what this actually is and why we may have a difference of opinion. So you mentioned the fact that, and this is just one thing that stands out to me about Reg BI, that that agents may not be incentivized to sell a certain product because they're not being paid as much. And that's just economics, right? We understand how the economics works. But
right, exactly.
The same thing could be said on the fee side, where everybody, in regards to just the reduction of cost, and for the investment business, right? It was a race to the bottom. ETFs, mutual funds have to lower their fees, lower all the other stuff. So what makes insurance any different than the investment side? That's my question.
Here's the difference. And the difference is
outside of suitability and fiduciary and stuff. But go ahead.
No. We're actually, it's directly related to the legal definition of fiduciary.
Yeah.
And putting everything, best interest sounds so good.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, we can all agree. I don't care what mode of business you're in. You could be selling cars. I don't care. We should all have the best interest in mind for the client.
Yes.
And I don't care what mode of business. I don't care what mode of compensation. The thing about fiduciary is that it takes best interest to a different level, but it's a regulatory legal level. It requires certain disclosures. And especially, and here's the disclosure. It's the scope of the engagement.
100%.
Where anything that comes out, any compensation outside of the client relationship, if the client is not paying you directly, it must be disclosed.
Yes.
Now, with fee-based business, here's the thing. It sounds so easy, right? You give me $500,000 to manage or $1 million, whatever it is. And the advisor typically will say, my fees are 1%.
1% of assets under
management. That's automatically a lie.
And
it's automatically a lie only because there's usually additional fees within that. You have your custodial fee, you've got your third-party asset management fee, and you might have another fee on top of that. I was with an RIA. The fees could add up to about 3%.
Okay. Wait. I'm not gonna let you get away with that. Now, this is where we're gonna have a conversation.
No, bring it on, dude.
I will say, in some instances, you're absolutely right, because there are some RIAs out there that may be charging 1.5, and then of course the underlying management fees inside of the expense ratios maybe 0.75 or even 1%, depending on that. And then of course you will have your additional custody or broker dealer costs inside of that as well. Now, yes, I can see that, but that's on the extreme side. That's extreme. It's extreme.
Fair. Now, granted, but usually the way that advisors will casually talk about it is that my fee is 1%. And what they're meaning is that their cut out of whatever it is 1%. 1% out of $500,000, that's $5,000 a year. It sounds so reasonable.
Yeah.
Right? It's 1%. You focus on that, no problem. Let me tell you, if I put that same $500,000, and let's assume we have to make it, by the way, the suitability versus fiduciary, everything's okay.
We'll get there. We'll get to that point. That's gonna be a good point.
You see where my mind goes, right?
Yeah. You're just like me. You're like, boom. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Assuming that everything works out and the suitability is there, if I put that same $500,000 into, let's say, one of my favorite index annuities,
6%, call it a day. Yeah.
30, that's 30,000
up
front.
Boom.
Now, let's think about this. How long has the person you're talking to, let's assume it's a retirement planning case. They're going to finally retire from a corporate position, and this is their pension and 401k combined.
Yeah.
Okay. And I get to earn 30 grand up front.
Not including the trails, though, because there's trails on those things as well. 25 bips on some.
For the one I'm thinking about does not pay me a trail.
Okay.
There can be trails.
Gotcha. You got you. Go ahead.
And there's different things on that. But
go ahead.
I could get paid 30 grand to do that up front. Now, here's the thing. What does that disclosure mean? Does it change anything for the client for making that decision? It is not a material fact.
Are you asking me?
It's a
rhetorical question.
Let's ask you.
It's a rhetorical
It
question.
can be
Well, so
rhetorical, but
as a client, if I was your client, I'm like, hey, if you had to disclose that, I most like just to be fair, they're not going to read it. I'll just be honest with you. They're not going to read this stuff. We send out
but if
ADV.
I don't say it
Wait,
out
wait,
loud, I mean,
what?
that's a key thing. I better say out loud. If I'm going through all these pages of everything, I
Yeah.
better say this is the thing. And the reason I have to disclose it is because as a fiduciary, if I get any compensation outside of our direct engagement,
Relationship.
I
Yeah.
have to disclose it. I have to
100%.
disclose why it's there. And so
As a
it
fiduciary, but as a
becomes,
fiduciary, you're supposed to disclose all fee engagement, whether it's outside or direct. So it's just
yes,
in plain English. But go ahead, go ahead.
yes, exactly. And so the thing is that the contract is the contract is the contract.
Yes.
And the merits and the properties of the contract do not change whether I get paid 6%, 3%, 12%. If the contract is properly disclosed, properly explained, all the fees, terms, conditions, everything else that is material to the contract, what does my compensation have to do with it? It has absolutely nothing to do with it, except that if I have a fiduciary responsibility, if I'm engaging as a fiduciary under engagement agreement, and under the way I represent myself to the public, I must disclose it. Otherwise, I'm in violation of the fiduciary rules.
And that's what and so that's what you're against in regards to what's going on right now with the industry, and the insurance lobbying against the Reg BI, because you shouldn't have to disclose what you're making. Is that fair?
That is fair, and the reason is because it is not a material piece of knowledge that has anything to do with the decision to be made.
Okay, and what they all say is this: you're absolutely right, because the money doesn't come out of the contract outside of just being in surrender fees. I 100% agree.
Yes.
I 100% agree. It comes from just the back end surrender fees, but it's not a material a use of their capital from the client. So 100% on your side with that.
Let's make sure we very much clarify these surrender fees, because surrender fees are generally voluntary unless you're in a position where you have to take out more than that free withdrawal 10% amount.
Again,
So
yes.
it's a spread product. It's not coming out of your account. It's not coming out of your contract at all. It's not being reduced at all. And so yes, it is recoup. It's what's called a validation period, that the contract has to stay in force long enough, and the company is going to recoup its costs. But until they recoup its costs, if you cancel it out, if you take out more than the amount allowed, they're going to have a charge. They might even charge me back. It
Yeah.
depends. There's other things about those contracts, but unless it's a material piece of information in the decision-making process, I don't want to clutter up the waters in giving information that doesn't help.
So now, but in your eyes, you say it doesn't help. But in my eyes, it may help me tremendously. Like, hey, this helps. I need to know that information. Now, like you and I both know, regulatory wise, on the fiduciary side, we have to send out all these ADVs. People don't read the crap anyways. But at the end of the day, it's just you got to put it out there, right? And you just have to satisfy a regulatory issue, and that's just basically what it is. You got to satisfy it. So now, suitability, fiduciary. Okay. Let's go there. Now, I was in the insurance business. I still have my insurance license, but I started with an insurance carrier. It starts with a G, ends with an N. I'm not going to give the name of it, but big mutual carrier. Hey,
I know who you're talking about. All right,
it's a Marvel movie. It has Galaxy at the end. But anyway, so
fair enough.
I understand the suitability perspective. I understand why they want to do it. And what concerns me is that my issue is all I got to do from the suitability perspective is if they agree to this contract, if they answer these questions, they agree to the contract, they check the box, my liability is not absolved, but the company's liability is basically reduced because, hey, you checked this, you said you read this contract, so therefore everything is okay. From a suitability perspective, am I wrong on that?
You are incorrect on that.
Okay,
here's the reason why. All insurance contracts are contracts of adhesion.
Yes.
Therefore, the law sides by default by the person who did not draft the contract, the person who did not draft the agreement. Just because you initialed something doesn't mean you understand what you initialed. And any good prosecuting attorney will exploit that.
100%.
And they better exploit that, because So here's the thing. I do have a problem with suitability, and I'm not going to take your definition and make it worse.
Okay.
And because the
Please
definition
do.
to me
Please
is
do. I'm here to
suitability.
learn. I'm your student today.
Oh boy, don't put that pressure on me.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
but here's my definition of suitability is what's the most I could get away with.
Okay.
That is my definition. It is merely what is the bare minimum, and generally what is the objective of that is to maximize my commission.
Okay.
And I do not agree with that at all whatsoever.
Okay. Okay.
We
So,
have got-
so right there. So if you don't agree with that,
Mhm.
what? So why are you in disagreement? So because that's what the Reg BI is about, like suitability, right?
Mhm.
So why are you okay with them invoking suitability if you're against it?
Because there needs to be a happy medium.
Gotcha.
And the happy medium to me, and no one talks about it,
Okay.
a happy medium would be a professional's code of conduct, a professional standard.
I got
Now,
you.
Kevin, you have a few letters after your name, just as I do.
Yes.
One of your sets of letters is RICP.
Yeah.
Retirement Income Certified Professional. You got it from the American College. I, of course, am also a graduate from the American College. The American College requires us to sign a professional code of ethics. It's a professional pledge. Yeah. And it basically says, and I'm going to summarize because I have not committed it to memory, but in light of all the situations and circumstances of those I serve, I will render that service and advice, which I, as long as I make every effort to ascertain and obtain, to serve clients to the best of my knowledge and ability if I were in the same circumstances.
Wait, let's just stop right there. That's amazing, by the way. You know that? I didn't even know that, but that's great. Continue.
So here's the thing: is that ethical conduct should be required of everybody that's in our industry.
Yeah, you can't legislate it. You can't legislate ethical conduct.
You can't legislate it. But one of the nice things about being members of associations is that they make you sign a code of ethics. Mm-hmm. Now, recently, I actually had to do some homework, and I did a whole bunch of homework on a whole bunch of associations on their codes of ethics, and they all are pretty much identical. Yeah. You're going to serve people to the best of your ability with your knowledge and skill, with their circumstances in mind. We want to make people better off, but there's nothing about that says how you're compensated, right? Compensation is irrelevant. I want to make people better off having worked with me than without. And we also clarify that just because you placed a policy does not mean that you made them better off. Okay. Some people might think that, and this situation may not be necessarily talking about.
No. If we go down this rabbit hole, that's a whole nother podcast.
Want to go down there? Okay. So there are certain organizations that love to sell IUL, and I have serious concerns. I'm not a zealot against it, but I have serious concerns about how it is often sold. And
IUL, because they don't have to have an investment license, right? You don't have to have an investment license for IUL. VULs you do, but IUL it's an insurance it's an insurance product.
The license has absolutely nothing to do with it. In fact, here's my definition of licensing. Licensing means you have the ability to act and you have the ability to be held liable for your actions and recommendations. It does not mean you know anything.
100%.
So, and I shock people. I make this comment. I've got a Facebook group of over 13,000 insurance financial professionals. Awesome. And so sometimes I've got to crack down on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because my goal is to make people better, not by regulation, but by knowledge and competence and style. We got to get better at what we do. There are so many people that are not insured. However, how we insure people, how we place these products, how we structure them it makes all the difference. So if I sold an IUL and it's minimally funded and I say, you can have all of this investment gain and everything, but can you do $100 a month? And you don't even do target. You're doing minimum funded.
It's a waste of money. You're wasting people's money.
It's a waste of money. So you placed a policy. They've got that coverage for as long as they can afford it and keep those premiums until the costs go up and that thing is gone.
Exactly.
So to me, that's criminal. Now, I'm not a not a regulator. I cannot regulate on that. But if I was to be a company and I'd say, look, if you're minimum funding this thing, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And that's one of the biggest differences of ethical conduct. You've got to treat people right.
So let's just start there. I mean, because we're gonna hit this. Insurance companies don't care about people. I'm gonna say this right now because they want premium. They care about premium, and the people that they put in place to run GAs are supposed to teach these advisors or quote unquote insurance individuals how to place proper policies. But then again, let me tell you a story.
All right.
I've seen stories where people are trying to get the end of the month premium, right? End of the month premium. Hey, we got to get our numbers. And then we're going to throw another life insurance policy on somebody. And I'm asking questions like, what are we doing? Why does this individual need 2 life insurance policies? Oh, well, they make this much money. And then you have another one where, as I'm taking my CFP and I'm learning things, one of the advisors wants to collateralize an annuity. Oh, and I'm reading there that, give me a second, and I'm reading in my book, and I text the advisor that same weekend like, hey, that's 100% taxable. What? So it comes down to the fact that the people in charge either don't know what they're doing or they don't care, and it's all about how much revenue can we get. And that, going back to my original opinion, my original fact, people put this $100 a month in because they just don't. I don't blame the advisor. It's not the advisor's fault. They don't know any better. I blame the people that are running the agency. I blame the insurance company because they should know better. And that's what they're teaching people. I've been to these conventions where they're just drinking Kool-Aid on whole life insurance is the Swiss Army knife of all investment vehicles, and that's all your client needs. That's what I'm angry against. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's no. First of all, we're going to come to a slight compromise on that because I love what you're saying. At the same time, there's so many GAs that don't know what they're doing, and even if they have CLU and CHFC, and here's the thing: I look at the underwriting.
It's on the investment side as well. So let's just put that out there. It's on the investment side.
Yeah, it's on the. But I am a champion for and a critic of the insurance industry because there's certain things that shouldn't be happening, and so yeah, I'm gonna show my biases, pro and con.
Okay.
And so, quite frankly, I had a GA. This was 15 years ago, and I was at a company that's very much like your company, named with a G, ends with an N, but it's not like that. But I think they're much bigger.
Okay.
In fact, they put out a memo about 2 years ago talking about they want to stop all infinite banking representations and sales and things like that for decent reasons.
Yeah.
So the thing is that I'm looking at underwriting. I'm looking at the home office. And all you've got to be able to do is substantiate, why does this person want this coverage? Where is it coming from? And again, I have to look at it as like, they have got to be better off. Now, at the same time, you did do a little bit of criticism of whole life insurance. Now, I happen to love whole life insurance.
I have 4 policies. It's okay.
There you go.
No, but before you go, go ahead. Every time you hear somebody on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever, it's got to be a properly funded whole life insurance policy. Why aren't all policies properly funded? I digress. Go ahead.
Proper funding should be done in advance up front, because if you don't do it up front, you have to underwrite it later to fix it.
Yeah. You and I both know that.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I'm so tired of hearing it's got to be properly structured. Of course. And we know that. And those of us in the industry, we're just tired of hearing the phrase.
Yeah.
We understand it. It keeps being said, but is anybody doing it? I hope more people are doing it than we hear about. But
no, because they want to go all base, man. We call it base in your face. Base in your face. Everybody wants to go all base, and they want the premium. They want the commission on the whole premium. They refuse to go a third of the premium and all paid up additions or something like that. It is what it is.
And in a way, I'm going to try to wrap it all around. See, it takes a knowledgeable advisor to understand all of their products to make sure that they can structure it right for the client and do well for themselves.
Exactly.
You know, I am not a nonprofit organization. I am in this business to do extremely well for myself.
Yeah.
At the same time, it cannot be at the expense of the client.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to the origin. So this is going to be the origin story, like Wolverine, right? So the insurance lobby's opposition to what we kind of went on a tangent, which is great because this is what this is about. It's about learning. But are you for or against the insurance lobby's opposition to Reg BI? Just to get that back out there, yes or no?
I am on their side on behalf of the industry. However, when I look at it selfishly, if that ever passes, and I think one day it's going to, and I don't mean Reg BI. Actually, you see, the insurance industry, the NAIC, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, they actually have a regulation best interest that's in over 40 states now.
Yeah. But
Now,
it's operated by the states. It's operated by the states.
Already
yeah.
there. So it's an enhanced suitability. I'm not going to say it's that professional duty that I'm talking about, but it's enhanced. It's supposed to be more stringent to make sure
What
all
does
these
that
things
mean? What does
are
enhanced
passed.
suitability mean? Explain that to me. What is enhanced suitability? I don't get that. I thought suitability.
I think
okay, now am I got a cape on now? I got a cape on, so I'm enhanced. So what's going on? I don't understand.
it's just, I think it's more stringent. I'm going to say that companies, for their own protection purposes, they now have to restrict how much in annuities that people buy because, well, the government's saying so.
But there has to be liquidity provisions. You can't just sit here and say, this is just me being me.
Yeah, I already factored all that in.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, if somebody has $1 million in a qualified plan, I can't just say, I'm going to take all that $1 million and put it into an annuity. That's malpractice, right?
We used to be able to do that.
Unless they have other assets in other places. I get all of that. But at the end of the day, like, there should be some protections for the individual, because you and I both know that there's been advisors out there. In case in point, I've had an advisor went into this government plan. Now, she has all of her stuff coming out. She has Social Security. She has her pension. Her husband has all his military benefits, pension. Boom, it's great. So now she has a TSP, a thrift savings plan, through the government with about $1 million in it. And guess what he says she should do with it? Put an annuity. And I was like, he said, what? And he said, put it in annuity. He knew nothing about her. He didn't know the fact that her husband is making $7,000 a month in guaranteed income, and she's going to have another $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month of guaranteed income. They have $150,000 of guaranteed income coming into their lives. But he wants to put her $1 million TSP into an annuity.
So at that point, it may not be a needs discussion. It could be a wants discussion. The question is, do they want it?
It's not about wants. It's about me. This is where I come in as a fiduciary. No, let's be real. This is where I come in as a fiduciary and say, stop it. Stop it. You know what? You're fine the way you are. This is now in an estate / if you want to distribute these dollars, we can distribute these dollars directly from the account. We don't have to lock them up. We can keep them liquid the entire time. And by the way, if we want to do it in the future, we can have that option to do that. It's not about just dumping money in and then losing access to it. That's where I differ, because I know, and you and I both know, not every agent's like that. I just get angry and upset because some insurance people, that's all they know. If I have a hammer, everything's a nail. You and I both know that.
So here's the problem. Who asked the client what they wanted?
Who asked the client
what they wanted? And so based on this story,
but here's the deal. The client doesn't know what they want because they don't know exactly what their financial plan looks like until you show it to them. Right? So until I showed them that could have been an option. Like, well, yeah, of course I want guaranteed income. But they didn't know they had $120,000, $140,000 of guaranteed income. That's the issue there. And then you have this guy coming in. It does need to be an fully informed decision within the context of everything else going on. And that's what at that point. Let's go back. And that's what this is about. Having people make fully formed decisions on where they're going to put their money, whether it be based on compensation, whether it be based on what have you. It's about making fully formed decisions. And I'm going to say this. About the fiduciary side. They're not infallible either, because you know why? I asked somebody the same question. I said, name one. I want one advisor to come out and tell me this. If a client has $1.5 million inside their qualified plan and they're about to retire and their qualified plan is just fine, how many of you would sit here and say not to roll it over? How many of you would say that? There's not one advisor.
What's your definition of fine?
Huh?
What's your definition of fine?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, but my definition, what I'm saying is from a fiduciary
even the Department of Labor has their own report about 401k fees.
But
I can destroy any 401k because you don't have the investment choice. You don't have all the control. The only reason I would leave it there is if they're 55 or over.
You're absolutely right. But that's a whole other conversation. What if?
Okay.
What if because I've come across plans where it's like, dang, this is a low cost plan. It's not charging them much. The fees are relatively small. I mean, I'm going to charge them 1.5%, or 1.24, 1 point whatever percent. I mean, of course I can justify it by saying I'm going to diversify. We're going to pull this plan. It's going to be a part of the overall asset class, yada, yada. That's not a problem. But what I'm saying is, how many advisors would sit here and say, if that were the case, to keep their plan there? Not one of them. There's not a one, because you know why? Because that's $15,000 a year, roughly, that you're not going to be able to peel into. So fiduciaries are just as fallible as everyone else. They're not any different, in my opinion.
Yeah, we all have our conflicts of interest.
Yes.
Every single one of us. If we're operating on a appointment basis, I want to have as many appointments jammed into my calendar as possible. If I'm working on a plan basis, I want my plans to be as cookie cutter as possible for the perception of customized fee, because I want to keep the brain power as low as possible. Why? So I can keep essentially, and I'm going to use the dirty word, churning. We got to churn these plans out. Now, commission-based has the ability to be more abused than other forms, and that's one of its biggest criticisms.
Because there's less barriers to entry. Like I can go and become an insurance agent, and just by taking an exam, and now I have my insurance license. So that, from that perspective,
Series 65 is not that difficult.
No, I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying, but those are additional steps, though, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Like versus one test versus taking 2 or 3 more, it's different steps.
Well, so, between the two of it, we both taken an equal number of tests. Your CFP is probably 7 courses. Your RSCP is another 3. That's 10 courses right there that I already know. With letters after our name, we're held to a higher standard. It's not necessarily a suitability standard. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a fiduciary standard, but we are held to a higher standard, and that means we're higher stakes. And the biggest reason I'm against fiduciary is I'm in the risk management business, not just for the client, but for myself too.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: when a client has a legitimate complaint, what are the steps? The step number 1, they got to contact their agent. I thought you told me it was this and it's not this. The agent better take responsibility. The reason that things escalate from there is because the client feels betrayed by the relationship with the agent. And I don't care if you're fiduciary or suitable, it doesn't matter. And out of all of this, we haven't even talked about the criminal element, because criminals are criminals. It doesn't matter. You could be a fiduciary criminal or you could be a suitability criminal. It doesn't matter. You're still criminal.
Hey, Bernie Madoff was a fiduciary.
That's a whole.
Bernard Madoff was a fiduciary, so it's all good. Yeah.
He's a fiduciary. So so we're not covering actual crime here. But if the client cannot get something satisfied, what's the next step? They need to contact the insurance company. And they go to their compliance or their legal team and they say, I've got a problem with this, and my agent isn't contacting me back. They're going to do their investigation, get the records from the agent and such, and they're going to make a determination. If that still doesn't work, they go to the state Department of Insurance. That's the next step to escalate. If the state doesn't get a satisfaction, get it resolved well, then you hire an attorney and you're going to sue for it. That's the steps. And I don't see that step being any different, whether it's suitability or fiduciary. So when does fiduciary get enforced? And it doesn't get enforced until you're in court.
We'll end on this part right here. So let's talk about the lobbies, opposition. They're saying there's going to be an increased regulatory burden. I 100% agree. Right now, with our issue at fiduciary side, I mean, just for me to roll over an IRA, move or transfer an IRA, I got to do PTE 2020, whatever that document is, disclosure form, sign that.
Glad you brought that up. What does it stand for?
Prohibited transaction.
It makes my point. Prohibited transaction exception. Now, why is it called that? Because anything that it's in the fiduciary scope of care that have compensation from anywhere else, it's a prohibited transaction, but you can do it anyway. Here's your exception. It's a terrible phrasing, but it has to be phrased that way. It kills me that it's even marked. I mean, remember, everything is marketing, everything is sales, and the fact is like, okay, I'm not allowed to do this as a fiduciary because I'm going to get compensated by trips and everything else and bonuses by placing your business with this company. But because it's in your best interest, we're going to do it anyway. We kind of sell. I mean, it's a terrible message, but I get it. I just don't like it, and because I don't like it, I'm going to keep railing against it until it becomes an issue or becomes law. But back to one day, someone will pass something.
So back to the regulatory burden, like I do feel it, and there needs to be some kind of a common ground in that regard, because right now the amount of paperwork that it takes just to move over an account or to do anything is astronomical. I don't think it's realistic what they're trying to put in place for everybody. My main objection, I'll get to that in a minute. I'll get to that one in a minute. Potential reduction in sales. out of all of what we've read about Reg BI and the disclosures and everything like that, it's clear that the client is secondary in this. It's all about the company. That's just my 2 cents, because I don't see much about. They may say something like it may raise the cost for clients, but at the end of the day, it's all about their bottom line. What say you about that? Because I think it's more about the insurance company than anybody else. I don't think they give two dams or two shits about the client. To be honest with you, just my 2 cents.
There's the order of compliance is number one, the company.
100%.
Number two is the client. Number three is the agent. If they, the company
but for the
has
advisor,
to protect themselves.
but for the advisor, it's what? The client, the company, and then themselves. That's what it's supposed to be.
The advisor has to have risk management in place for themselves. If the advisor is not doing things right, they better be putting themselves right through proper business practices. So the advisor has to be number one, not in terms of compensation, but about in terms of compliance and risk management. You got to manage yourself and do good business. Gotcha. Then it's the client, and then the company. The insurance company is last.
Last couple things. There's going to be an overlap with the state, like you mentioned before. Yeah, the state, and you can have federal, and it's going to be overlapping. It just makes things confusing. I get all of that. What would be the impact that you see on the commission-based structure to like altogether if this were to pass?
I haven't thought of it through that way. Frankly, I don't know if it would really have an impact on the commission. It might lower it just a hair. I'm not too worried. I think some of that might be a little bit overhyped, because quite frankly, here's the thing about the PTE. Let's go back to that form real quick.
Well, but won't brokers just kind of shift away from
the prohibited transaction exception form is for the agent to get completed and the agent to retain. You don't even want to send it to the company. The company doesn't even want it.
Yeah.
That tells you everything. The onus is on the agent and the advisor to do the right thing for the client. And what do you need that form for? Probably when the complaint shows up.
Yeah.
That shows I did disclose everything. The company doesn't want it.
Yeah.
It tells you everything of what their stance is. They want to be a product manufacturer, and all they want to do, if their product is right, sell it. If it's not right, don't sell it.
Just to put a bow on this, man, I appreciate the conversation, David. You opened my eyes a little bit about the insurance industry. Again, I've been in the industry for almost 14 years. And I understand. I just have a disdain towards not just the insurance industry, but the the securities industry as well, because I think it's all smoke and mirrors to a degree. I think people just like to implement things just to like, hey, just put this document in their face, they'll sign it, and then it absolves you of all things holy. And it's all nonsense, man.
Yeah.
The bottom line is this: do right for your clients, do right for your business, and all things will work itself out. Man, thank you. Yes. Thanks for having me. I appreciate this. I wanted to say thank you for doing the Nines podcast today. Anything you want to leave the audience with in regards to Reg BI, the fiduciary standard? Any last words?
My main thing is what I try to champion is that we, instead of imposing new rules, regulations, and disclosure, which doesn't necessarily make any difference anyway, we need to promote higher levels of thinking and higher levels of practice standards. And higher levels of practice standards is, how do you take care of the client? What's your relationship with the client? How do you explain things, making things attractive, yet being fully disclosed of everything you're trying to do for the client? Higher standards for we need to just get better. We're not product pitchmen. We need to be in the business of solving problems. But if you keep pitching stuff and you keep being desperate for the commission, your days are numbered. And no one likes being in that position anyway. We need to get in front of more people on a favorable basis and help them solve their problems. There's a shortage of qualified advisors and agents serving the public. We just need to get better. So the best thing I think more agents need to do is invest in sales training. Learn how to actually help the client solve problems. That's the best thing. I don't need more regulation. I need to get better.
So this is my last thought. Like, I really believe the industry could solve this very, very easily. And you want to know what my answer is?
Bring it.
Define what a financial advisor is. And if you fall outside of that definition, then you're going to be considered a sales consultant or something else. I just think they need to define it, because what you and I both know, you have a State Farm agent out here or somebody selling comprehensive insurance saying, hey, I'm your financial advisor over here at State Farm. Like, what? Stop. Not everybody can be define it, And if you, and that's what you are, and that's what you can call yourself. And if you're outside of that, then you're basically just going to be this. But they have to, it has to be defined, because right now it's way too ambiguous.
Definitely ambiguous. Technically, I am an insurance agent, but I've got 3 sets of letters after my name that let me market myself as a financial consultant and a chartered life underwriter. Now, the fact is that I bring a level of care, not because it's mandated, but because I want people better off having worked with me. Besides, how do you get referrals unless you make sure people are better off having worked with you? It's all in my best interest to take good care of people. And the main thing that I don't like is the assertion that the fiduciary lobbyists are making that anybody that's not a fiduciary is out to get people. And I hate that narrative.
You're out to get everybody. I'm just kidding with you, man. Hey, but seriously,
I don't know you that well yet, but I was about ready to tell you you're number one.
No, but hey, seriously though, thanks for joining me, man. And again, this has been a wealth of knowledge, man. And I appreciate you jumping on the show.
I appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you very much. Maybe we'll do this again sometime. We'll try to refine this and hash it out some more.
You're listening to the 980s podcast. We're talking about Reg BI. We're talking about suitability. We're talking about the fiduciary standard. We're talking about why the insurance industry lobbies against your best interest. There's no right or wrong answer here. The fact is that the insurance industry is doing these things because they're trying to protect the business. And that's the bottom line. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to get my book, MLB to CFP, live on Apple and Amazon. You have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email us at info@9icapitalgroup.com. Send us your question. Go to the website at www.9icapitalgroup.com. Schedule an appointment. As you know, we're here to do what? Educate, empower, and engage. And we had David Kinder, an insurance specialist, on the call. Him and I have been going back and forth on LinkedIn. I had to get him on because I had to kind of go back and forth with him, because you know what? Although we have our differences, we have a lot of similarities as well. Thank you guys for joining us. Stay humble, stay safe, my friends. I'll see you again soon.